Doomsday 3.
Yeah, we had Doomsday 1. He came from one of the toughest areas of Phoenix, both in his country and of course, praying for safety and
Got people on the defense talking about it. You better get your ass the ball. You better get the ball.
I just gotta say, when it comes to former talent,
Different.
For sure, and they would have thrown it off because
This guy gets off you.
And then I go to bed every night like. G man, I promise you that Man, what is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag. Obviously got my main man, Kelly K9, trying to stay warm where he's at. I was complaining to him about the temperature, but I guess I ain't got shit on him. So hopefully you guys are having a good time staying warm where you're at. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you hit the share. Get all that stuff out of the way. We'll be talking some Cowboys, probably talk some college football, and maybe a little bit of draft. So we got a good show planned. But first of all, Kelly, how you doing? You look a little cold. What's going on?
I'm doing all right, man. I got some. I have a little bit of technical difficulties. For those of you that don't know, I do this out of my garage. I got a nice little setup here for the podcast in the garage, but it's a little cold and had some problems with the heater in here, and the heater went out. So I'm wearing my Dallas Cowboys jacket. Got a hoodie underneath. You know, it's anything for the show, man. It's what are they? There's like the postman used to say, come rain, sleet, snow, cold weather ain't gonna keep me from doing this thing. So I'm out here doing this. Like I had to use my phone because it has issues with the laptop, all kinds of issues going on. But I'm showing up for Cowboys Nation, unlike Jerry Jones, who has not showed up for Cowboys Nation all of 2024, and sure as hell hasn't started showing up for us in 2025. So.
No, we're gonna get into that. So it's not for looks. You're not. That ain't style you're looking for. Showing off maybe some new gear and stuff. This is for keeping warm. I mean, this is serving a purpose. That gear you got on, man. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it looks nice. You know what I mean? This is my favorite jacket. You know, looks nice and everything, but it's serving a purpose right now because it's cold as hell up here in Nebraska. So yeah, it's like 17 and then 19, 17 degrees, 17 or 19 degrees, something like that. It's cold.
Yeah, and I know it ain't snowing in Puerto Rico. I used to cover that area, and I'm going to be going on a cruise, leaving Friday after work, and then don't get back till Tuesday. So it's going to be hopefully the weather will be nice for me going down to Cozumel and back. Easy cruise going on Margaritaville. Never been on that one. That is like what you call I don't want to call it low budget, but it's affordable, right? It's an easy cruise. It's not like the expensive high-end ones, but it goes out of Tampa. It's very easy, affordable. And so we're going for my wife's birthday. So we got my brothers going, got friends of ours going. So it's going to be a good time. I might be dropping a video here and there. The only thing that sucks is not planned out very good. Now, I will say for me, when we planned it out, we already knew the Cowboys' fate was sealed. We knew the playoffs weren't an option. But my brother is a Broncos fan, and I don't know if he didn't think the Broncos were going to make the playoffs at the time we booked it, but the Broncos are playing on Sunday. And he's not happy, and I'm sure they're going to have it on the ship, but we dock in at Mexico. But he is not he's on the edge right now with what's going on. So we're going to see what happens.
I would be too, man. It'd be one thing if it was a regular season game to miss a regular season, but a playoff game is inexcusable. You can't, as a fan of any team, you can't miss a playoff game. That's not something that you can do. It's inexcusable.
No. I mean, would you now, let's say, put yourself in his shoes, because he's got a wife and you know, you got your girlfriend, I got my wife, and what would happen if you canceled you said, babe, Cowboys are on, it's playoffs. I know you booked this now, but you know, would you do that, or are you just gonna just say, hey, I hope I can watch it?
I mean,
if I do, I do. If I don't, I'm just gonna have to live with it.
At that point, you're probably just gonna have to bite the bullet, man. But me, I'm a planner in terms of football. I plan things around the Dallas Cowboys schedule. So I would have already known that, hey, it's playoff time. There's a possibility my team could be in the playoff. I wouldn't have booked at that point in time. I would have had to say, nope, not doing it. I can't do it at that time. We can do it at a later date. February, let's move it into February. You know what I mean? But yeah, if it's any time during the playoffs, man, I got my schedule wide open for that, just in case.
And I like watching the football. You know, even if my team's on, and it's a Thursday tomorrow night, you got Penn State, Notre Dame, but then Friday night, which they got a sports bar on there, so we'll be able to watch. I'm not that worried about it. You got Texas, Notre Dame. But the problem is you got a full slate on was it? Oh, I'm sorry, Ohio State and Texas, right? Did I screw it up?
Yeah. Texas. You said Texas, Notre Dame, but I knew it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Thank you, Kelly. That's why you're my man. But the worst part is I like watching football, all the playoffs. So are you an asshole for sitting going on a cruise ship and sitting in the sports bar watching football all day?
Well, no, I mean, because you're just carving out a couple hours. You know what I mean? At least give you the couple hours. I mean, it's the college football playoffs. There's got to be a little bit of leeway there, man. And I'm sure that your wife. I mean, she knows how big of an avid sports fan you are. It's no different than my girlfriend. She knows that I'm an avid sports fan. So I think that we get some leeway being diehards like this because once it's all over, once the football is all over, hey, look, I'm all yours for the next 6 months, and then you gotta sacrifice me for about 4 months. You gotta August through December, January. I'm football. I'm loaded up on football. So it's all about making the compromises.
It is, and I'm going to make sure she has a lot of drinks. That way, she won't remember anyway. She'll be fine. Baby, I was there. What are you talking about? We're going to get into some stuff, but. When we get a question from Doug, I mean, I'm gonna answer, and I'm gonna ask Kelly. We obviously need your opinion too. How you feeling about this Bills matchup with the Broncos? I'll just say this: Uncle Cheech on Monday's show, he had this as his upset, not necessarily winning, but Broncos are getting 9 points.
Yeah.
And I know you follow the Broncos closely for other reasons, so. I mean, you probably got a better idea than I do. What do you think about this game?
I think that's a lot of points. I think that's a high point spread. I would take the Broncos and the points. I think Buffalo ultimately will win this game, but Denver's got a good defense. Denver's got a pretty good defense that can hang in there, put pressure on the quarterback. I like Denver's chances to stay in that game. And I mean, look, I know that Kansas City wasn't really trying and they didn't really roll out their starters or anything, but I mean, they shut them out. The Broncos shut them out, the other day. And I mean, I've seen that Broncos defense when they're playing, at their best. I mean, it's a solid defense. It's a reason why they won a lot of their games, and Bo Nix is also, for a rookie quarterback, he's been a very impressive quarterback. Doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, doesn't have a ton of interceptions on the area. If you look at him and Josh Allen's stats side by side, they're actually almost identical.
I saw that. That was actually pretty surprising. Josh Allen had the edge, but it was a lot closer than you thought it would be.
It is a lot closer than you would think. And so, I mean, Bo Nix has had a great rookie season. I think they'll be good. And they'll have a good game, but I think ultimately the Bills will win that game just because Josh Allen and that offense, and Buffalo just is the better team. So I think
I think
a couple years off.
I think the Broncos keep it interesting for a little while, then it'll just kind of the Bills will just be a little too much for them. So we'll see what happens. But I looking now that we're talking playoffs, we'll talk some playoffs, and then we're going to get into some of the topics that we're hitting on with the Cowboys and just kind of the draft, just an early look at the first round. But looking at these playoffs, interesting, a lot of, first week rematches, right? You had Washington and Tampa, you got Philly and the Packers. And what was, I'd asked Uncle Cheech about it and just your thoughts. Did you think it was a smart play for the Rams to rest their guys? It cost them a seed. They went down. So instead of playing Washington, now they're playing Minnesota. Still, Minnesota lost to Detroit. That game got away in the end, but I mean, Minnesota still won like 14 games. Pretty good team. Do you think that might come back to bite the Rams? I mean, how do you see just focusing on the NFC? How do you see these three games playing out?
Well, I think that ultimately, I think the Rams are a team that has been pretty hot lately and got hot towards the end of the season. Their offense is clicking. They got some offensive playmakers. I still like Minnesota in that matchup, though. I still like Minnesota. I think all year long they've been a consistently good team. Got a good defense. Got a great offense. So I like the Vikings still to take that game. And then in the other game with Green Bay and Philly, it's a big blow for Green Bay. They lost Christian Watson. That was a big blow for them to lose him. I believe he's their number one receiver. So I mean,
he's been in and out this year though for him. I mean,
kind
of pegged up, but
he is. But he's definitely been a guy that when healthy they depend.
When
on
healthy,
But
absolutely.
I do say what I do like about Green Bay is I do think that they do have a solid defense. They'll be able to put pressure. They'll have to put pressure. I say that's easier said than done with Philly's offensive line. Philly's got a pretty great offensive line. I can't say that they don't. But I mean, obviously, I'm rooting for Green Bay and hoping that Green Bay takes that. Philly is, I think, a 4-point favorite in that game. So just a little bit over typically when it's an even team, they're about a 3-point favorite. If you're at home, they give the home team that advantage. So they're giving them a little bit more of an advantage there with 4 points. But look, it's a 7 seed versus a 2 seed at home, just like it was for Dallas last year.
Would that be some poetic justice that we got?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it just almost like the stars have aligned, for Dallas to be able to troll Philly if they lose at home versus this 7 seed Green Bay team after roasting our asses all offseason for losing to this number 7 seed Green Bay team. And now it's a possibility that it might happen to them too. So I'm really hoping that does come to fruition. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and Washington, Tampa, you just don't know what you're going to get.
So in that game, I honestly like Tampa in that game, and the reason why is just because I feel like. Yeah, Tampa's been kind of an up and down team, but Washington, might be, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, but that might be the worst 12-win team I've ever seen.
I told you they got a horseshoe up their ass or something. They won some games pretty crazy.
They really do, man. And like I said, that might be the worst 12-win team that I've ever seen because. I mean, there were so many games that you could point to this year that they squeaked out a win. I mean, hell, Dallas could have beaten that last game. Should have beat them, in my opinion. I think they kind of gave that shit up at the end. It was, but I mean, I think Tampa Bay ultimately is going to win that game. I think that they've got the playmakers that can challenge that Washington defense and that Washington secondary with Mike Evans. They've got a good young running back and Bucky Irvin. So I like Tampa Bay in that one. I think they'll take out Washington. I think Washington will be one and done. Be really nice to see Washington one and done, and Philly follow up right there. Both of the NFC East teams be one and done in round one. So
for selfish reasons, of course. So I wanted to, we'll talk some Cowboy stuff. We're going to finish with the draft because I really want to get your insight on this first round. Because I was running a lot of these mock drafts. I know you do as well. And I just wanted to get your take, and everyone guys in the channel want to get your guys' take too. But, a couple things with the Cowboys and really just focusing on McCarthy. And I was listening to 105.3 this morning, and I was just kind of some of the stuff I usually agree with a couple of them guys, but man, Bobby just had me. Yeah, I wanted to call up and just speak my mind because the thing about McCarthy and forget the whole deny. We're going to get into the way Jerry is or not, but let's just talk about McCarthy as the coach. You know, I just don't know what the Cowboys are going to get better. So I think he gets a raw deal in the eyes of the media and the people because he is the coach of the Cowboys. You know, a lot of, you know, like Bobby was criticizing that he's had two seasons under 500 and that Jason Garrett only had one. Well, Jason Garrett had like 5, 8, and 8 seasons. He had a 4-12 season when he lost Romo, and his record with the backup was 1-6 with the backup. Mike McCarthy's only 2 seasons under 500. He lost his starter, and he was almost 500 with his starters. He was 4-5, I think, with Dalton, and he was 4 and whatever with 4-4, 4-5, or whatever he was with Cooper Rush. Obviously 0-1 with Trey Lance, and then they had some real scrubs in that other season. Other than that, he's won 3 12-win seasons. Yeah. And to me, the coach, you know, his priority is getting you in the playoffs. Now, to me, it's on the players a little bit. You know, when you're in the playoffs, the superstar's got to play. But going into this season, they were criticized. He was really being critical of McCarthy this season. But, you know, the offense didn't look good. And you know, the defense got off to a slow start, which, you know, Zimmer came back and kind of said he wished he would have done some things differently in the beginning. But going to the offense, I mean, this was an offense that was number 1 in the NFL last year when healthy. He had no choice on what running back they were going to be rolling out there. You know, he had no choice of these free agents that they didn't get. He had no choice of what they were going to roll out with the offensive line and with the receivers, and that they decided to let guys go. And, oh, by the way, let's not replace them, but let's replace them with draft picks, undrafted guys, unproven guys. So, I mean, do you think McCarthy is getting a raw deal? Because I will tell you this, and I'll tell Bobby about the same thing. Jason Garrett ain't even in the same stratosphere as Mike McCarthy as a head coach in the NFL. And maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. You guys let me know in the chat. What do you think, Kelly?
Well, first of all, one of them has a Super Bowl and the other one doesn't. So, I mean, that right there, those qualifications lean towards Mike McCarthy immediately. But what I look at when I look at Mike McCarthy is that I don't necessarily think that he is a bad coach by any stretch of the imaginations. I don't. And also, the other thing I would say is that, you know, when people talk about offensive play calling, they say, well, you know, offensive play calling was shit, you know, this year. Well, you know, it was pretty good last year. Dak was, you know, right there in the MVP voting with you know, Mike McCarthy calling the plays last year. My whole thing with Mike McCarthy has always been what seemed to be the lack of discipline with this team. Every year that McCarthy's been the head coach, they've been towards the top of the league in penalties, and to me, that's a problem that has to get fixed. I don't really know, you know.
But do you think that's a product of the culture of the Cowboys? Because we've been talking about penalties for 20 years.
No, and it most definitely can be. It most definitely can be. So again, I mean, I can't put it all on McCarthy. But it's one of my beefs. If I had a beef with McCarthy, that would be it. And some of his late game management at times has been a little bit questionable as well. But when it comes down to Mike McCarthy overall, what I would, you know, just like to see is that maybe just take the play calling duties off McCarthy's hands. Bring in an actual offensive coordinator. Let Mike McCarthy be the head coach. Let him let him build the culture around winning, accountability, discipline. Let him put his stamp on this team while having a good defensive coordinator and a good offensive coordinator. And, you know, and the thing is, again, like you said, and I tweeted this out today, I said that I can't blame McCarthy for the failures of this season. I mean, I can't look at him and blame it. One, this team was decimated with injuries. Two, like you said, it was not his choice to roll Rico Dowdle out as running back 1. It wasn't his choice to depend on a raw rookie left tackle to start the season. It wasn't his decision not to go out and sign a swing tackle to have a plan for Terrence Steele at right tackle, knowing that Terrence Steele had huge problems. He's been a problem. He has been a problem, has not gotten back to form since the contract that he signed and suffering the injury afterwards. So we didn't go out and get a swing tackle that could help at maybe one of those positions. You could slide him over left or right. That would have been something good to do. Get a veteran out there. We didn't have that. It was not Mike McCarthy's decision to not go out and get a wide receiver too. We're sitting there rolling out. We got, Michael Gallup's not coming back. So there we got Brandon Cooks is our number 2. And not to say that Brandon Cooks has not shown that he can be capable of being a number 2, but he just didn't have it really at any time this year. When he was out on the field, there was just a lack of separation on the field. It just didn't look great. We had a chance to go out at the trade deadline and get a wide receiver. You saw all the wide receivers that got moved around. The Cowboys decided to go with Jonathan Mingo with the 4th round pick. So, I mean, none of those decisions were Mike McCarthy, so I can't put the onus on him. I thought that if this team would have remained healthy and if Dak Prescott doesn't get injured, this is a 10-win team. At the beginning of the season, I thought it was a 10-win team. Turns out it's a 7-win team. There are 3 games worse, and I thought that when Dak Prescott went down, it could have been a whole lot worse. I thought we could be looking at this team as a team that won 4 games all year.
I'm shocked they won 7 games.
I was, and they went on a little run with Cooper Rush, and I thought that he catered the game plan well around Cooper Rush. If you look at what Mike McCarthy has done and what he's been able to do a lot of times with lesser talent, it just makes me think, okay, what could McCarthy really look like if Jerry Jones really invested the resources around him and in, this team? How different would they look? Because I think it would look a lot different if you really invested money and spent some money in free agency and gave Mike McCarthy some actual talent to work with. Not saying there's not talent on this football team, but give him talent to improve the roster off of what we saw in Green Bay. We knew it was a problem. We knew the run defense was a problem. We knew the defense overall was a little bit soft in the linebacker positions. Improve the roster. If you don't improve your roster, how in the hell do you think things are going to get better? You just expect things to magically get better? No. And that's why I think that Mike McCarthy kind of got a little bit of a raw deal here. And now, Jerry Jones is kind of just dragging his feet on the whole matter once again, which is just more of what we've seen from him, man. Just dragging his feet any chance he gets. He's dragging his feet. If you want Mike McCarthy as your head coach, come out and say it. If you don't want Mike McCarthy as your head coach, then let him go interview with the Bears and just let him go. Fire him.
Yeah.
But don't drag your feet around this shit. You know what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part that's frustrating. And Jane Slater, she didn't name the player, but she spoke to player, and the players, they like Mike McCarthy and she asked one player, should Mike McCarthy return? And he said he should. And I wish if he does return that they allow him to have a say so in things and have control over things, which is telling you that it's all coming down from the top, which is it's a constant problem, because the only common thing over the last 30 years is the owner general manager. I mean, You've had different coaches and you're getting very similar results. So that's the thing with me. Now, what is your feeling with Jerry denying the opportunity for the Chicago Bears to speak with McCarthy? Now, we all think that means McCarthy's coming back, but they haven't done anything. And so it's like dragging your feet, like you said. And I had reported, I don't know if you know Nevin Shapiro. He was the guy who was a big donor in Miami, ended up going to jail for doing Ponzi schemes down in Miami, and ended up getting my Hurricanes in a little bit of trouble. Well, he ended up going to jail, and Joe Biden gave him a pardon. So he's out free now, and he's back down in Miami, and maybe he's going to help us with some NIL stuff. I don't know what's going to happen there, but he was on a video, and he said he heard it from his reliable source that the Dallas Cowboys are going to part ways with McCarthy, and they're going to get John Gruden. And I saw it somewhere in the chat. And John Gruden is not a fan of Dak Prescott, which would make it very interesting to see what would happen. And I guess I'm leading to that. Do you think that's horseshit? I don't really necessarily think that's true. But do you think it's important to keep McCarthy because you've got investment in Dak Prescott? And do you want to blow the whole thing up? Because typically when you bring in a new coach, they want to, it's like you're married to the quarterback. You want to get your own guy.
Well,
I mean, what's your thoughts with that?
I think if they were not going to re-sign Mike McCarthy, I think they would have let him interview with Chicago. The fact that they denied his interview, that they denied Mike McCarthy to go interview in Chicago, in my opinion right there, that says it all. That to me, that sealed the deal. I think they're working out a contract with McCarthy right now. I think it'll be announced soon. I don't think there's any way in hell that John Gruden comes to Dallas. I think that that's about big a long shot is Jason Whitlock scoring with Joy Taylor. That's what I think. So I don't buy it. I think that Mike McCarthy's coming back to Dallas. I really do. I mean, what other reason would you have for denying the interview for him?
Would that be the ultimate dick move if
I
they
mean
denied him?
exactly. And you'd have no reason to treat Mike McCarthy like that. He's been nothing. Whatever your opinions may be of Mike McCarthy as a head coach, he's been nothing but class when it comes to handling situations, the way he's handled the media, the way he's dealt with Jerry, the way he's treated them with utmost respect. There's no way that you deny that interview unless you're just being a straight up dick. And I just don't see Jerry Jones being that kind of guy. I mean, he let Dan Quinn go out and have interviews. He let Kellen Moore, when he wanted Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore's office, he let him go out and have interviews. The fact that they blocked that lets me know that I feel like 100% they're bringing back Mike McCarthy.
And what did you, is Jerry kind of losing his mind a little bit? Because what did you think? I just wish he'd shut up sometimes, but he started babbling on about incentive-based contracts for coaches. And he's a fan of incentive. But, does he get an incentive-based deal? Should we, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know the things he says. I don't know. I'm starting to lose. I tweeted out there Al Davis. We're deep in the Al Davis era for the Cowboys. I hope that's not the case, but what is my man doing here?
He's just an idiot. There's no other way to put it. He's an idiot. He's an absolute moron. I have, over the past year, I have grown to despise Jerry Jones more than pretty much any human being on this earth, man. And that's saying something because there's some people I really don't like. There's a few people I really don't like. Jerry Jones is pretty much at the top of that list for me and continues to go that way, man, just because of the shit that he says. It's just one of the dumbest things in the world. And I don't understand where he's coming from. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. There's not a goddamn coach on the planet that's going to coach for an incentive-based deal. He's smoking crack. That right there lets me know that Jerry is just, he's losing his damn mind. It's starting to get embarrassing at this point. It really is. It's getting embarrassing. It's getting to the point where it's like somebody's got to have the conversation with Jerry and be like, look, man, you gotta step down. Steven's got to, at some point you got to take the keys from Grandpa because he can't drive no more. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, man. I don't know what to think of it. Each time that I think that I've heard, the most ludicrous thing that Jerry could ever utter, he does it again. And it continues again. Like I said with the Mike McCarthy thing, when they asked him about Chicago, he's like, well, if somebody doesn't want to be here, then they should go to where they think that they're wanted. And if he wants to, talk to Chicago, go talk to Chicago. And then goes to block him from talking to Chicago. Like, what the? Like, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. I don't get it. So Jerry drives me fucking nuts, man. He drives me nuts. I think that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard, though. An incentive-based head coach. Nobody's doing that. Nobody.
No. And the other thing is, we'll end Jerry on a high note. We'll try. Do you watch Landman?
I do. I've seen it.
Okay. You watched the Jerry. That part, because that wasn't scripted. That was real. That's his real feelings. That kind of, as a father, and it gave me a soft spot for Jerry. You know what I mean? And then you start thinking about that. But, at the end of the day, football is football. I don't really want a family business, but I get what he's saying. And I think what he's saying had a lot of merit. And I think that's pretty damn cool and this and that. But, I'm not in it for tear jerkers and kumbaya to have your family there and this and that. It's got to be about winning. You got to run this thing like a business, and you got to be, winning is everything. And I don't know. What was your thoughts on that? Did it make you feel a little softer for Jerry, or you don't give a shit?
No, it didn't. It made me embarrassed that Jerry Jones is, out here fucking working on a damn TV show instead of working on his damn franchise. I can't, man. I wash my hands of him. I'm just done with Jerry. I can't. I can't listen to him anymore. I can't listen to him talk. Can't take him serious when
Oh,
he's talking.
what do you can still do the Jerry? I mean, you got to be able to. You're not gonna retire that at some point.
I'm not going to retire the Jerry because now I can enjoy just making fun of him, just complete, absolute ludicrous shit that he says. Gives me a lot more leeway with things that I can say about Jerry when I'm doing a Jerry impression. But yeah, he's just,
What you need to do, let me give you some, I'm going to give you tips. I probably shouldn't do this on air for everyone to hear, but I'm just going to do it anyway. You got to get your kids and you got to get out in public and you got to go to the grocery store. And when you're checking out, you got to check out like Jerry. And then you got to just start saying some off the wall shit like he does. And just and then just get reactions and you just have them recorded. And when you go to the store, you do this. When you go to the checkout line, you go to the bank and just start talking and just see how long it takes people to, see if you can drive as crazy as Jerry does us. I think it'll be great. I don't know. I don't think that'd be some social media fire right there. So I don't know, but might as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna answer a question here to Ultra, the ultimate Dak hater. He said people hating on Jerry for having 3 championships, but hate on Dak. Well, Dak hasn't been the quarterback for 30 years. I mean, I don't think it takes a rocket science to figure that out. You got 3 championships. Are you going to live off those fucking 3 championships for the rest of your life until you die? It's been 30 fucking years, man. I mean, what are we talking about? Dak's been there since 2016. I mean, and who said, I mean, that makes no sense. None.
No, the people would love it if you do that. The people would love it. So you got a job.
I mean, that's something we can work on. That's something
we're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on it. Get it on this show. We're gonna do some clips for you. But I agree. Like I love my 3 Super Bowls. I mean, I'm looking around. I got Aikman. I got Emmitt. I love my team that I grew up watching. I love that team of the '90s. But like you said. I mean, I'd like to have some new memories. I'd like to have some new memories. I mean, I love the old ones, but give me some new ones.
Exactly. It's like you said. It's like the dude that sits there and talks about how he banged a supermodel when he was 19 years old, and now he's 50 years old, and he's sitting over there, freaking, looking back at his pictures and trying to, reminisce over banging that 10 when he's got a 5 in his damn living room that he's with, and she's. Championships
don't go away.
No, they don't go away. They don't have expiration. They don't have expiration dates. No, they don't have expiration dates on them. I'm still proud of the Super Bowls. But look, I'm tired of hearing people talk to me about, you got, the last time you won one, VHS tapes and all that shit, because it's the truth, man. It's the truth. I mean, look, those championships were a long goddamn time ago. So if I build myself up and I do something great, have great accomplishments, and then I don't do shit for 30 years old, and all I'm 30 years now, I keep talking about what I did 30 years ago, who the hell is going to take you serious after that? Who the hell is going to take you serious? I don't give a shit about that. And then, I mean, it's just, you got to sit there and you're going to sit there and tell me about the 90s. Keep talking about the 90s. Keep talking about the 90s. The 90s were a long goddamn time ago. Fucking Vanilla Ice was popular back in the 90s.
Well, someone else who was pretty good in the 90s, I want to parlay into a couple of things. So I'm going to kind of go off the beaten path, and then we're going to get to the draft and the first round, because like I said, I've got some interesting thoughts on it. But again, if you guys are just tuning in, we got 300 of you guys hanging out on different platforms. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, all that kind of good stuff. So, I do Cameo, Kelly. I get some Cameo videos, and every now and then I get an oddball request. And I got an oddball request a couple days ago. And I had a guy that wanted me to do a video because his friend said he can name 18 running backs better than Emmitt Smith.
Damn.
And he wanted me to take care of him. So I reached out to my main man, Kevin Gogan, and I said, you're not going to believe this cameo I got. And this guy's telling me that he can name 18 running backs better than Emmitt Smith. And his comeback to him, and I wish I was going to use it in the video, but I got him some other ways. But Kevin Gogan wanted me to ask him, how did he get the name cocksucker? So I thought that was a good comeback from Kevin Gogan. But, we did a video with Kevin Gogan, and Kevin Gogan talked about the greatness that was Emmitt Smith and how was it the line or was it Emmitt? And Gogan gave a lot of points to that. So I'm just asking you and asking the channel. I mean, are people smoking some heavy stuff? I mean, think about the history of time. 18 running backs. Could you name better than Emmitt Smith?
No. I don't think I could name maybe one, possibly maybe two. I mean, in my opinion,
there's some you can argue.
In
right?
my opinion, I think Emmitt. In my opinion, Emmitt's always going to be the best. In my opinion, but I think that you can argue a couple different running backs.
I've argued with Peyton. I've argued with Barry. I've argued with Jim Brown. I mean, those are names that come up that you can kind of put in that league. And it's your taste. My taste are guys that move forward, guys that win championships, guys that lead their team, and when he's not in, they don't win. That's kind of my case always with Emmitt Smith. But I could take that. But I mean, what the hell are people talking? And so this guy was going to do a video response to me, and I said, have at it. And I said, why don't you do one better? I said, you come on the show, but I haven't heard a response because I'd love to hear these 18 running backs.
So like I said, I could entertain probably like two other running backs maybe in the conversation where we could argue Barry Sanders, might be able to argue. Like, I think that's it in my opinion, honestly, is Barry. It's Barry and Emmitt Smith. Outside of that,
to me, Jim Brown probably in the era, but it's so hard because you compare in eras. He was a man amongst boys. The size of him, I mean, he was as big as a defensive lineman. So it's so hard to compare eras. So I don't like to go too far back, but if I take it from Peyton's era up to today, I'd be hard pressed to name one better. And I know people say Barry, and I've done the arguments with Barry, and I respect Barry.
Yeah.
I respect the hell out of best pure runner of the football that I've ever seen.
Right.
Best running back, I'll say, was Emmitt Smith. So
yeah, no, and I gotta go with that. I gotta say, Emmitt, like I said, I mean, you get two, but I mean, if you get over two running backs, you're smoking crack, and absolutely it would get decimated if you came onto this show trying to talk more than two running backs. It absolutely just moronic. But
well, I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy, so I gave him his video.
No.
So it was good.
Got a
So what do we got there,
super chat,
Kelly? We got a super chat
Mark.
by
Yep.
Mark.
Yep, Mark gave us a super chat. He said, I'd like to see a stud defensive lineman follow us in round 1 and then draft a damn good back in round 2. I think Smith was a great back, but he also had an all-time best offensive line.
And I will disagree with you, Mark. I will disagree with you on that offensive line, and I've said it over and over. And go watch Kevin Gogan's video. Was it the line that made Emmitt, or was it Emmitt that helped make that line? And the guy who was on that best offensive line of all time that you stated, he has a different take on it. So it's no disrespect to the people who said it. And that Great Wall was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But Emmitt had a lot to do with it. There was a reason why when Emmitt Smith didn't play, they didn't run the ball. I mean, Derek Lassick and those other guys didn't do it. So I don't want to shortchange Emmitt Smith, but I don't want to drag that out. But you did segue, Mark, us into the final chapter of what we want to talk about and the draft. And, he brought an interesting point. Defensive, could we go defensive tackle? Could you go defensive end? Could you go running back? We talked about Jeanty, and I was really want to hone in on the running backs. Every draft that I did where Jeanty fell to Dallas and I took him, there was a heavy price paid in a position that I want the most, and that's wide receiver. So I guess my question to you, Kelly, and to the chat, if Jeanty's there, is he too good to pass up and you just got to do it? Or at the sacrifice of getting one of those top wide receivers? Because if you do it, the receiver's going to be – there is a drop-off from that first round. I mean, when you get in the second round, you're looking at Restrepo, who I think is a phenomenal receiver, but I don't think he would do best opposite CD. I think he'd do better in a slot with another big guy, on the outside, helping take some pressure off CD. Just my opinion. But I mean, what do you think? And you guys definitely in the chat. What do you think on that position? What's your take on it, Kelly?
So in my opinion, I think that you have a better chance of hitting on a running back in one of these later rounds than you do on a wide receiver. And I think right now, I think the biggest need for the Cowboys offensively is another wide receiver opposite CeeDee Lamb. I'm taking a wide receiver. I'm talking about, there's a couple of them. There's that Burden out of Missouri. There's, I don't know how to say his name.
Mbuka, I think it's Mbuka
out
from
of
Ohio State. We're going to see him
Ohio
play.
State. I would go wide receiver, and if Jeanty's on the board, I'm perfectly fine leaving him on the board and taking a wide receiver because I think this draft is very deep in terms of running backs. I think you can get a good running back. I think you can get a starting running back in the second or third round, either one. This class is loaded with running backs. It absolutely is. And I think that it'll. When this season plays out, I think we're going to look back on it and say, man, there was a lot of starting caliber running backs that came out of this draft and played. I mean, my guy that I like, Taj Brooks, I think he's a starting running back in the NFL, and I think you can get him in the third or fourth round. So
let me help you, Kelly, because I did notes, man. I took a few notes to help us have this conversation. So Jeanty obviously ranked, the number one running back, right? That's fair. And he's fourth overall by PFF. And then you have Hampton from North Carolina. He was ranked 20th overall, not just running back, overall. And then you start to get a little bit of drop off, but then you have a big clump. You got Scattaboo, you got Sampson from Tennessee, you got Johnson from Iowa, you got Henderson from Ohio State, you got Devin Neal, the Kansas running back that a lot of people were high on. You got Judkins, I believe he was from Ohio State as well. You got Harvey from UCF, and you got Giddens from KSU. That's your top 10 running backs by PFF. And I'm with you because they left two guys not in the top 10. One is your guy, Brooks. The other one is my guy from the U, Damian Martinez, 6 foot, 232 pound, bowling ball, tough running back, breaking tackles. They're ranked 121 and 164 overall by PFF grade. So to me, that's solidifying what you're saying is this running back class is deep. And every time I take a running back one, if I take Jeanty one, it screws up the whole plan of the draft. But again, is it too good to pass up?
Yeah, and again, I just don't think so. I do not think that the difference between Jeanty and some of these other running backs, in fact, a lot of these other running backs, I don't think the gap is that big. I really don't. I don't see Jeanty as this generational talent. I see him as a good running back, and I think he's going to be a solid running back in the NFL. I am taking wide receiver, but we have three. Real quick, we got three super chats, so we're gonna knock
those out, and then there's some questions
I want
to get to them.
He just said, "Here's a fantasy: get Tyreek, a stud DT, a stud BD." I think he means
probably running back.
Running back in the second round, and the draft is heavy on running backs, and we get all our injured guys back. We'll be good. I would agree with that, DB. I agree with that, but I don't think that we're going to get Tyreek Hill. I don't think Jerry Jones is spending that kind of money, hasn't shown he's going to, and Tyreek Hill would come at a price. I would love it though. I'd love to get Tyreek Hill. If we get Tyreek Hill, I don't got to worry about drafting a wide receiver. Then we got Chris says, "Evening, boys. Quick question: who sucks more, the Jones family at running the Cowboys or Joe Taylor at a Christmas party?" That's a good one right there, man.
We're going to say allegedly just to protect ourselves from any lawsuits. We're
gonna that might be a coin flip right there. That might be a coin flip. And then the last one we got here is Mark saying our D-line's in trouble. But them and Osa, and he is not Osa. He's nothing special. Best of them is Osa, and he's nothing special. I disagree. I think Osa's pretty good. None of them
might be good enough to where we're not going to keep him.
None of them are drafted DEs or proven. Tank's old. Mozzie's okay. We need a playmaker. Now I do think that the Cowboys could use a defensive lineman, but my problem with that is how many times are we going to draft a defensive lineman and then whiff on them? The thing is, I think we need a proven defensive lineman, and I don't think you get that through the draft. I think you go out and get that in free agency. I think you get a proven veteran, and that's your best bet. I don't want to gamble with another defensive lineman in the first round. I don't even want to do one in the second round. I think that if you're going to grab a defensive lineman, I think you grab one and you spend money and you invest that money in the defensive line. You do it in free agency. And the thing is, you can, I've heard a lot of people say, well, you're going to have to spend a lot of money if you want to get a stud defensive lineman. But the thing is, maybe you get two guys. You get two guys that are not necessarily top tier, but maybe that next level down where you can afford to get two of them, and then you're kind of rotating guys in and keeping guys fresh. Because I think that I really think that we need a proven presence in the middle of that defensive line, and I hope that they resign Osa. I hope that he comes.
I hope so too.
He might have played his way out of Dallas, but I hope they do, because I feel like at times, there's many times throughout the season that I've watched him and thought that he's been a game wrecker. And I'd love to see him continue his progression and do that here on the Cowboys. But it's in terms of the whole draft thing and the running back thing, I just think that there's just so much talent throughout this draft with running back that I don't think that you got to go running back in the first round. And I think
that's the one. I think that's the one position that that they can wait on. And like I said, you get two of our guys didn't even crack the top 10, and I think they're going to be good. We had one question. Oh, JJ spend money. Yeah, no, that's true. Danelle, he had asked if we're considering the Cowboys bringing in a running back through free agency as a factor. Would you? And I asked this on Monday, and I'd asked you is would you rather Dallas go sign a free agent running back like a Najee Harris, and not really focus on getting one? Maybe they're going to get a running back late, but I'm talking about getting a running back that we want, right? Some young legs, some fire. Would you be okay with them signing a veteran guy, or do you think the running back this draft is too good with running backs? I mean, I'm getting one.
Yeah, I think in this draft I think you need to draft for it. I think this is the perfect draft for it. I think that it's loaded with running back talent. You get a running back, and you draft him with the hopes that he's your RB1, and that's the guy that you're rolling out for the next 4 years at a cheap price on a rookie deal. You don't have to worry about him, getting older. You don't have to worry about him being up for another contract. You don't have to worry about investing a bunch of money in the running back position. I just think that it's the ideal draft with how many running backs are here. I just think it'd be crazy not to go running back in this draft.
Yeah. And, how mad, and it may end up being a great pick, but how mad would you be if Dallas did draft? I know that the kid from Michigan, another Michigan defensive tackle, I don't think he'll fall to Dallas, but if Dallas drafted another Michigan defensive line.
Yeah, so I actually did a mock draft where I took Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, and had somebody just no, absolutely not. I would never get it. But, I don't think that you can judge the talents of one guy based off another, because, I think that Mason Graham guy is going to go probably.
He'll be earlier.
Yeah, I think he's probably top 7, top 8, probably. I don't think there's any way he falls to 8 or falls to 12. But I mean, look, if he fell to 12 and he's on the board and the Cowboys drafted him, I'd have no problems with it, because I would feel like that he's going to come in and he's a guy that could contribute and could be a guy that come in there from day one and make a difference on that defensive line. I don't think you can look at Mozzie Smith and say, look at the failures that we've had, Taco Charlton, Mozzie Smith, and say, God, we can't draft guys from, Michigan anymore. I don't believe that. I think there's still been good to be. And it didn't, who else came out of Michigan? Was it Bosa? No, he came out of Ohio State.
Yeah. No, Michigan.
Who was the other good defensive lineman that came out of Michigan, though?
No, there was a guy that came out. He ended up not being very good. I'm trying to remember his name.
I was thinking that there's a guy out of Michigan that just recently that's playing in the NFL right now that was pretty good. Maybe I'm wrong. But
Hutchinson. There you go. Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson. There you go.
Yeah.
For the Detroit Lions. So, yeah, you got Aiden Hutchinson out of the Detroit Lions. I mean, shit, if you gave me an Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, sign me up for
Well,
that.
you're not gonna complain about it. I would say, the problem, with us is the sexy picks, right? So you get a defensive tackle. It's not a sexy pick. It's not this, but it could. I mean, games are won in the trenches. So if he were to fall, and you never know. I mean, you may get a run on receiver. You see how the quarterbacks go. I mean, someone can get crazy and get panicked about a quarterback. You've seen quarterbacks go. I mean, there was a time that quarterback from Florida State, who the hell was he? The Vikings drafted. He was terrible. And he ended up going in the first round, and everyone was like, what the hell were they doing drafting him in the first round? But some of these teams panicked. Christian Ponder was the guy. Absolute bust. So you just never, the draft is really funky. But what I would say for me, I want this draft to be about playmakers. And in big positions, and it's receiver, running back, edge, cornerback. I think you could build your defensive tackles. I think you could build them in free agency. You can get. I like our offensive line. I do. I think you can. I think maybe a couple veterans or a veteran here or there to give just some stability. If Guyton, I know Guyton had a rough year, but I think he's going to make a leap. I think he's going to get better. I mean, you kind of, again, Jerry throws him into the fire at starting left tackle. It's a lot to ask. I mean, it's a lot to ask a young kid who everyone said when they drafted him was raw. Now they had was it Chuma Edoga? They had him, but he got hurt, so it kind of it sped up the process. But I want this draft to be about flash. I just think this team needs more flash and get the grit and get the studs, the veteran guys that you can get for good value. And you got to be aggressive. But will they do it in free agency? That's the $1 million question.
I mean, we'll guess we'll find out. Your guess is as good as mine. But I agree with you on the playmaker part. I mean, I think so too. I'm to the point where, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even mind to see the Cowboys double dip at either the wide receiver or running back position. I wouldn't mind seeing them take 2 running backs in this draft or 2 wide receivers in this draft. You know what I mean? If they draft a wide receiver in round 1, maybe grab another guy in the 3rd or the 4th. They grab a running back in the 2nd, maybe grab another one in the 5th. They got those 3 5th-round picks. I think where this team needs the most help is offensively. I think where this team is closer to being elite is with this defense. I think if you're going to run this thing back with Mike Zimmer, a 2nd year of Mike Zimmer, that means these defensive players are going to be more comfortable in year 2 of the scheme. You saw them start to get more comfortable in that scheme as the year went on and progressed. A healthy defense, in my opinion, what I'd like to see this team do is add to the defense via free agency and add to the offense via the draft. Some of these young guys. I mean, I don't really think you need to, if you can hit on a guy in the draft at wide receiver, if you can hit on a running back in the draft, then I think this offense goes back to being a top tier offense, because I think that was what was missing on offense this year was playmakers, because outside of CeeDee Lamb, you didn't have any. I mean, I know a lot of people will point to, towards the end of the season when Rico Dowdle really came on strong, but he was just never really a guy. Even when he had those 3 games where he rushed for like over 150 yards, where he rushed for those were against one of the worst rush defenses in the league. You saw what happened when he went up, when he went up against Philly. It didn't look like the same running back rushing up against one of the elite defenses in Philadelphia. So, Rico Dowdle he's a good back. He's definitely not a bad back to have as your number 2 guy. If you want to have him as your number 2, he's just not a number 1. He's not a guy that I feel comfortable in. You go into a game in the playoffs and you need a guy to run the ball, and that's what you need to do. You got to run the ball, right? And he's just not the guy that I want back there in that backfield running the ball. I don't trust him to do that. So I think that if you get the playmakers on this offense, I think that you can see this team, revert to being back to that, more closer to that 12-win team we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah. No, and what I would say, someone asked a question, and where did he go? Do we have any idea of a decent free agent defensive tackle? And, I did my research because I'm like, you know what? Who do people think the Cowboys need? Now, this guy, I'm going to be honest with you, I never heard of him. maybe Kelly, if you're a big fan of this guy. His name is Poona Ford. He's a defensive tackle. He isn't one of the most touted free agents, but he had a terrific resurgence with the Chargers. He had an 85.1 PFF overall grade, fifth among qualified defensive linemen, while 78.8 PFA run defense grade, placed sixth. Even if Dallas can keep Osa, adding this 29-year-old Ford would make for a great tandem. And this is kind of what I'm saying. I don't know who the hell that guy is. I don't know if you know who the hell he is, Kelly, but I don't. And this guy's ranked sixth in the PFF grading. Take it for what it's worth. I mean, everyone's got an opinion, and I don't even know who he is. That's what I'm saying. I just think you can get defensive tackles. You can get veteran guys that The one area that I see where a lot of busts are, is defensive tackles in the draft. I see more failures there. It just seems, especially in the early rounds. I just, so I'm a fan of a veteran. Do you know who that guy was?
I do not, but you know what? I don't know a lot of the defensive tackles in the NFL, to be honest with you. The only ones you know are really the ones that are like the elite guys. But you can have a guy. The reason why is because they're not players that stat fill. Most of those guys aren't going to fill stats unless you've got a guy like an Aaron Donald who's an absolute beast. Then you don't really hear about these guys because they just go out there and they do their job. They clog the lane to where the run holes are clogged in the middle, so these guys got to bounce it outside, and then your defensive ends clean it up, or your linebackers, right? So you don't really see, you don't really hear a lot about defensive tackles. It's not a sexy position, but it's a position that obviously has been an area of need with this Dallas Cowboys team, and I agree. I think that you go veteran presence there, and then fill your other needs to the offense through the draft. That's just my preference on that. And, and I think that that's the way to best get this team back to that level that we were at, 2 years ago or last year. I guess we say 2 years now since the season's been the depth, but I'm talking about 2023. But
absolutely. So, let me just say, I saw West Coast said he's in the house. Now, this is the man, run the damn ball. So I don't know if he's still listening, if he's still watching, but I asked the question, would you take Jeanty? Would you take Jeanty if he's there? Or are you taking one of these other running backs later?
I do know he is a fan of the running back, and I would be curious myself to know if you take Jeanty, if he's on the board.
Because I'm sacrificing a receiver that I want if I get Jeanty, but if my man says he's that good, he is.
He's a fan of the running backs. I would think that he probably is going to know and have some knowledge of how deep this draft is in terms of running back, because there's a lot of running back talent in this draft. Me and Mike have been talking about it. Running backs, and I feel like that in this draft, I feel like that you can go. I feel like you can go deep into this draft and get an RB1. Just my personal opinion on that, but
I do too. I do too. But if you're there, West Coast, let us know. But yeah. So I mean, what other thoughts do you have with this first round? There was a question: Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. Hey, West Coast, if Jeanty falls to Dallas, do you take him, sacrifice that receiver, or do we got enough running backs in this draft that you're going to take one a little bit later? That's the question we're asking your expert opinion on, because you know that you run the damn ball. You know what I'm saying? So,
run the damn ball. And I know he knows when you're running.
Do you take Cam Ward or Shedeur? Have you watched either one much to give a good opinion on that, or?
I haven't. I got to look and actually watch. I need to watch some highlights, I guess, of your boy Cam. I hadn't watched enough of him. I watched a little bit more of Sanders in terms of those two quarterbacks, just because he was in the Big 12. So I mean, obviously, I got to see a little more highlights and stuff like that. So I have to watch a little bit more of Cam before I can make an educated decision on that. I think that they're both going to have a challenge no matter what team they go to. I feel like one of them is going to end up at the Titans, and I just think that that's a difficult place because that's a poorly run organization, and I just don't know that either one of them are going to have – they're going to have a tough time succeeding if they go to Tennessee, either one of them. So,
well, his real question is how well will we use the running back in 2025? I mean, that's a fair question. It's a fair question, but Dak Prescott needs a running back. I mean, he's at his best running, when we're running the football. That's, to me, when he's at his best. And that's when the offense, to me, is at their best. And you're seeing the resurgence of a running game. Look at the Eagles. Look at, the Ravens. Look what they've done. Look at all these teams now with these running backs, and they're running the damn ball. So, they better be on board with running the damn football. The other offensive line that maybe didn't pass protect so well, but these young guys showed that they can open some holes and they can get this running game going, because you saw this running game really getting going with Hoffman and Bass and Smith and all the rest of them boys.
Well, the other thing that I've wondered about is with Mike McCarthy and that game plan that they kind of went to with Cooper Rush and having Cooper Rush more under center. Like, why can't we see more of that with Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott under center. It seems it bodes better for the run game when you're able to run the ball with the quarterback being under center. And I think it also goes to some of your play action. I mean, a lot of Dak Prescott's plays were out of the shotgun. So I agree 100% with West Coast. How are we going to run the ball? How is that offense going to look? How are those alignments going to look? Are we going to have more of those run-heavy personnels with Dak Prescott when he's in there, or are they going to go back to putting him in the shotgun and having him throw it 40 times a game? Because if that's the way they're going to do it, well, then, I mean, it doesn't really matter who's back there at running back, because we're not committed to running the ball.
No, they got to commit to running football, man. I mean, they got to commit to running football. You cannot. I mean, it showed evident very early in the season with this offense when they were doing the bullshit with, this guy's going to get 3 carries, this guy's getting 4 carries. Yeah, I mean, talk to any running back that was great.
Yeah,
they need the ball. I mean, they need the ball. They get better as the game gets going. You cannot sit here and just kind of tinker around with this guy, couple carries here and there. It is not a recipe for success.
No, and I mean,
I think you need I like a thunder and lightning. I like a 2-back system but there's got to be a lead dog. I mean, there's got to be one dog in the building.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like the Detroit Lions before Montgomery went down. Montgomery was their lead back. He was their lead back, and Gibbs was their relief guy that came in the game. But Montgomery was the lead back all year. But they had the perfect balance with those 2 running backs, and that's the thing. Does Mike McCarthy have it in him to find that balance? Because look at how many running backs we had this year, and did we ever find balance in them? I didn't feel like they did until later in the season when they really started leaning on Rico as RB1. But even at that point, they didn't really mix in anybody else. You'd see Zeke get a couple of carries here and there, and but Hunter Lipke really never got utilized a lot. I mean, it's like we never really found that balance, and I just felt like that. I don't know that if Mike McCarthy really understands how to find that sweet spot with having more than one running back,
But he did it in Green Bay. Who was it? Who was their running backs? I'm trying to think of the years he was there. I know he wasn't Edgar Bennett. That was Holmgren. Wasn't he Dorsey Levens, and there was another running back? I mean, I thought they had
Eddie Lacy
different running backs there.
Eddie Lacy, didn't they have Eddie Lacy for a while? This right here,
Eddie Lacy was one. Yeah, that
right
there is. Yes.
Dak needs to be under 30 passing. I could not agree more. I've said that a million times, that I think that Dak is a good quarterback. I think Dak is a competent quarterback. I think that too many times Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy are both guilty of falling in love with the pass and getting pass happy and just completely abandoning the run. Even when they've said they're going to have an emphasis on the run, they have not. And the stats and the numbers will prove otherwise. And when you get Dak back there throwing for 30 to 40 passes a game, it just does not work. His best work was done in his early years when there was a bigger emphasis on running the ball. Now, Mike McCarthy wasn't here during those years, but 2016, 17, 18, when Zeke was running the ball, we were run heavy, play action pass. The offense was clicking. The offense was rolling. And I think they need to get back to that. I think that's the best way to help Dak out.
And if I got a problem with Mike McCarthy, it's exactly kind of what we're talking about, like not totally committing to the run. And again, I'm working off my memory, but I think it was Cincinnati. I'm almost positive it was Cincinnati, where we were controlling the game, we're running the ball. It was a great game plan. I think it was Rico did a 20-yard run, 18-yard run, whatever it was. We're running all over as a fourth quarter, and then we freaking throw the ball 3 straight times, and then we punt it. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's the part that frustrates me with these offensive coordinators and McCarthy in particular with this is they all want to be cute and they all want to throw the ball, right? They all, they all want to show everyone how damn smart they are. Just don't be smart, man. Let's just be good. If you're running all over somebody, man, you do it till it stops. Super Bowl 28, was it? If my memory's good.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys down at halftime, come out in the third quarter. They run the ball 9 straight times.
Yeah.
Same run. Same run. They didn't change anything up. 9 straight times they ran it down Buffalo's throat. Say, stop this. That's what you got. That demoralizes the defense. You want to talk about humiliating a team is when you can't stop the run. We felt it, Kelly. How humiliated you and I sitting there, and I don't want to hear about the comeback, but how humiliated were you and I sitting there with the Ravens when you're seeing Derrick Henry just absolutely annihilating this run defense, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And we're up in the stands. Imagine how the players are feeling.
Yeah, no, it's a demoralizing feeling when somebody's running the ball down your throat and you can't stop it. They're picking up big chunk yards, 5 yards at a time, 6 yards at a time. Because here's the thing: is when you're running those, and you've seen it this year with the Ravens, you've seen it with the Eagles, you've seen it with the teams that are able to run the ball. Those 4 and 5 and 6 yard plays eventually turn into a big one, a 30-yard run, a 20-yard run. You know what I mean? They really chip away at a defense and demoralize the defense. Just real quick, when I saw a comment, and I had to hit this right here. Edgar said, can you please ask for prayers for all of us in Southern California? I said, we got some really bad fires right now. I have been watching that and seeing that. Thoughts and prayers to anybody. I know we got a lot of people, a lot of our Cowboys family and Cowboys Nation that's out there in California right now. So anybody that's out there that's being affected by those, man, stay safe. And definitely prayers out to everybody out there getting affected by those.
No, I've got a lot of friends and family that are out in Southern California. I talked to some today, and it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And
terrible.
Everything can be replaced. Do your best to get out of there safely.
Absolutely.
But it's terrible. I didn't even really know about it till today. It was weird. I try not to watch the news so much because
I don't either. It started coming through on TikTok, and I started seeing some things. But man, some of the footage and some of the videos I've seen, man, it looks like something out of a movie. It's like a post-apocalyptic, just insane, man. That so much devastation, fires, things just burnt to the ground. Embers floating through the air, smoke. It's just I can't imagine living that close. To where that's happening. That'd be absolutely terrifying. I'd be on a one-way train the hell out of California, but I understand it's not always that easy. It's just a lot of devastation there, and hopefully they get those fires under control soon. But and
it's crazy. I don't want to get on the political thing, but just what I heard, because I talked to some people there, and I way off base probably on the facts of it, but I guess the gist of it is, I guess there's water that comes down from Northern California to Southern California for reservoir and this and that. I guess the governor has to release it. And I guess they did not do that to put it somewhere for some fish or whatever they were kind of doing. There's some environmental thing. And so the firefighters, they got no water. Now they got no water. Our government, man, let's just have some common sense, man. I'm all for fish and stuff, and you want to do that, but I'll never put that over human life. And let's be smart about it. So I don't know what the hell's going on there, but I hope all you guys are safe. And I believe West Coast, he's West Coast, so he's probably out there too. So I hope
gotta be West Coast. Yeah, West Coast.
But,
definitely I'll stay safe out there.
Yeah. All right, Kelly. I think these are the dog days that we're approaching. So I think we had a great show, man. I think we had great engagement. This is what we want to do. We're going to be collaborating. I know West Coast and I kind of talked a little while ago. Maybe this is going to be the time in the off season to get West Coast in here. We're going to have some other guests in here. We're going to do some collaboration with some great content creators and try and mix it up. Because if we put all our heads together, we're going to figure this shit out. I don't know if we can get Jerry to listen to us, but we're going to try. If we say it loud enough, then maybe we will, and hopefully it'll happen. But definitely appreciate. Yes, we'll definitely do it, man. We definitely would love to have you on and get your knowledge. But
yes, sir.
We appreciate all the people that subscribe, that share, that like. We've got to have some interviews coming up. We're going to be doing that in the off season with some former players, getting them in here, have a good time, talking about the good old days, because that's what we got to do as Cowboy fans. We got to talk about the good old days right now until we got better days ahead. But someone asked about betting. I'll show it to you. I did a triple threat. I did the triple threat for Ohio State. I got Ohio State covering, I got Ohio State winning, and I got the Ohio State over. That's my bet there. And I got Notre Dame. Uncle Cheech feels that Notre Dame, there's no way the refs are going to allow Penn State to win. If there's any close calls, it's going to go Notre Dame's way, because ESPN and the powers that be do not want Penn State, Ohio State in the championship. They would love nothing more to see Notre Dame and Ohio State in the championship. So he says, put your money on Notre Dame. Do you have any thoughts on that before we check out, Kelly?
I know that I had actually taken, so as far as the college games, taking Notre Dame, taking Ohio State, and then I kind of already said in the NFL. In the NFL, I think unfortunately, to the disappointment of my girlfriend, I do think it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. I think to win. I think the Tampa Bay is going to win. I'm taking Green Bay in an upset, obviously, because I can never pick Philly. I actually got a $100 bet on Green Bay, to be honest with you. I bet it with my Eagles guy. Got a $100 bet Green Bay, and then I'm taking Minnesota.
Right. Minnesota over the Rams, you said?
Taking Minnesota over the Rams, and then I'm going to take
Baltimore, Pittsburgh.
Baltimore over the Steelers. I think Baltimore is going to take them out.
What do you think? Houston and is it
Houston and the Chargers?
Playing? Chargers.
I actually think I'd take Chargers on that.
That's not a sexy game at all, is it?
It's not at all. It's probably one of the worst games of the weekend, I think, just because the Texans look so shitty down the stretch, man. Just really bad. CJ Stroud has had a really terrible year to follow up that great year that he had his first year. Just kind of really fell off this year. It hasn't looked great. So I think the Chargers actually had kind of come on a little bit strong down the stretch. So I actually like the Chargers, which means Ezekiel Elliott will get to play an extra week.
If he gets elevated, he's
on the practice squad. Gets an extra week. He's on the practice squad, but he'll get an extra one. So
yeah, no, I'm almost at the same line. I'm a fan of the Rams. I don't know. But them doing to Minnesota, we'll see. I think the Tampa will win. I think Green Bay is going to win. I think Baltimore obviously is going to win. I think Buffalo. You and I are pretty much tied at the hip with that one, except maybe the Rams Minnesota game. And I agree with you on Notre Dame, Ohio State. I think that's going to be there. And it says something about this college football playoff, because all the teams that were ranked 1 through 4, they all got beat. These other teams that were playing in, each week. So you're not getting the 1-2 matchup. So I think this college playoff works. I like it. I know it's not perfect. I talked to our guy, George Teague, and I threw it out there. And I said, maybe they go back to the BCS. Maybe they go back to the BCS style where you have the computers kind of picking your 12 teams that just take everything out. But, him and I, George and I just kind of laughed about it. We said, well, that won't give the controversy that people want. You got to have people to talk, to complain, because that's the beauty of college football. So It'll be great. You guys enjoy one of the great weekends in football, this wild card weekend. Crazy stuff happened. Now you bring in the college football, semifinals. It's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be fun for me. I'm going to be out on a cruise, heading to Mexico. If any of you guys happen to be going on the Margaritaville out of Tampa, hit your boy up. We'll see you on there. It should be a good time. And Kelly, I hope you get warm. I hope you get upstairs and you got the heat all ready for you. I hope you're going to be nice and
fireplace going.
Get everything going. But everyone else, man, be safe out there. Have a great weekend. I will see you. I know Jimmy and Greg are going to fill in for us. So Greg is filling in for me, so there will be a live show on Monday. So make sure you check it out. Support Greg and Jimmy, and we'll see you guys. Take care, Kelly. Have a good weekend. We'll see you.
All right, man. Peace.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need somebody.